It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of March 26, 2004. We got 4 films to look at today, so a lot to get to. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, the sequel to Roger Gosnell's 2002 live-action adaptation of Scooby-Doo. This is Scooby-Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed. Uh-oh, Shaggy and Scooby fucked up Matthew Lillard because, man, actually, I take that back. To the film's credit, he does have probably the best line in the whole movie, which perfectly represents the movie itself. You know, there's a part of the movie where he finally loses it and yells at Scooby, like, "You're pushing your luck, Scoob," and it's not... And it does not sound like Shaggy whatsoever. It literally sounds like Matthew Lillard going, "You're pushing your luck." Like, it's him literally talking in his real voice. And I mean, and also give Matthew Lillard credit because he eventually did become the permanent voice of Shaggy, and he has so far made that character his own since then. Just, it's these movies, man. Like, the casting overall is not bad. It's just everything else about this movie, from the bad writing, the bad direction. You almost forget that this is written by James Gunn, and in fact, they were hoping that this was going to be successful enough to have a third film in which James Gunn would be the writer and director of it, which, knowing what we know now, probably would have been awesome. But then again, we have this movie here, and it's about as standard of a sequel as you could possibly get. So you have, of course, the Mystery Machine Gang. Is that the Scooby Gang, pretty much? I was going to say that. I thought they had a permanent name, but the Scooby Gang, they like to solve mysteries and have to face the past as multiple enemies from their past show up and begin wreaking havoc all over the city. They have to find a useful way to defeat and put a stop to their past enemies once and for all, which is about as formulaic of a premise as you could possibly get, in a film that really, none of the villains in this movie are that threatening. I mean, the first movie had at least a threatening force behind it. I mean, yeah, it wasn't a great movie, but they were at least trying in that movie. This feels like a movie that's so lazily put together, and you would swear, like, you have to be a Scooby-Doo fan to really know that none of the monsters in this movie even come close to who they've actually faced in the real world, in the animated series. And even the guy who's behind it all is not really that threatening whatsoever. I mean, whenever he shows up, he just comes up, he just is like in the background going like, "Mystery Incorporated," like he's talking like Taye Diggs in Equilibrium when he thinks that he's got Christian Bale locked down. Like, he's so over the top, just like, that's what this villain is. It's just like, "Mystery Incorporated, look at what I just did. Okay, I'm off now." And he just disappears afterwards, and it's just like, what's the point of this? Like, what is the point of all of this? Like, you could say that for the whole movie. What is the point of this? You know what the point is? Money. The first film made a ton of money. They couldn't even wait until the summer to get this out there because they knew that something like Garfield or what was the big Shrek 2 was gonna beat its ass to the ground. So they said, "Fuck it, let's just put it out in March and hope for the best." And no, even the people that liked the first Scooby-Doo movie looked at this and went, "Okay, no, this is even worse than we could have possibly imagined." Like, the jokes make no sense whatsoever. There are cameos in here that are absolutely pointless. Ruben Studdard has a cameo because he just won the American Idol competition the year before. The Tasmanian Devil shows up for no particular reason. You get Shaggy with boobs if you've ever had that weird fetish of ever wanting to fuck Shaggy, but I know I certainly haven't, but I'm sure there's someone out there that probably would think that, but I don't know, man. Like, this is one where it's just like, you could just tell they weren't trying whatsoever. Even that trailer I just showed you pales in comparison to the awesomeness of the teaser from the first Scooby-Doo movie. The one that actually made you think that this was actually a Batman movie. But now, this is from the very beginning of the trailer, you could just tell zero fucks were given whatsoever. And they just were waiting for the money to pour in, which at first made money, and it was profitable, but even Warner Brothers looked at this and said, no, we can't do this anymore, man. Like, this is really pushing our luck. But, hey, Roger Gosnell, stick around here, because you'll get a chance to fuck up another Hanna-Barbera property, which was the Smurfs. Okay, technically it wasn't a Hanna-Barbera property. It's originally from Peyo, but the show that we all know comes from Hanna-Barbera, so I guess it kind of evens itself out. But no, just wait about 8 years, and then Roger Gosnell will fuck up another Hanna-Barbera property in the Smurfs. But yeah, this is just a film that, it's a shame because the cast overall is not bad. Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, Matthew Lillard, Linda Cardellini, look like the characters from Scooby-Doo. They're just not really given a whole lot to do here. I guess the only other thing that's positive about the movie is that you get to see Linda Cardellini in spandex, which, win-win, sort of. I don't know. I'm trying to look for some positives here, people. You know it's bad when the movie is literally ending with a cheat code for a video game. The post-credit sequence is nothing but Scooby-Doo playing a Game Boy Advance, and they show a cheat code on there. That's the literal end of the movie. Like you wait for the end, waiting for something like a cliffhanger ending for the next movie, and nope, just a cheat code for a game that I guarantee you nobody ever played. I played Game Boy Advance a lot back in the day, and I'm sorry, I was not that person. I would have never played this game in my entire life, and just the casting overall in this is just completely wasted. Seth Green is wasted here. Alicia Silverstone, who hadn't made anything of noteworthiness after the double whammy of Batman and Robin and Excess Baggage. Peter Boyle, just a bad movie. Just a bad movie. And I guess you could say that Scoob's probably the best of the animated theatrical Scooby-Doo movies, but even then, that movie was not that great. But just goes to show you the animation kicks the crap out of live action again. I guess we could throw that in there as well, but I've literally got enough of those at this point. I mean, I'm grasping at straws here to find anything else that hasn't been said already, but Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, just a bad movie. Just a really, really bad movie. Speaking of movies that you kind of expect a lot better from, here's an even bigger disappointment. Tom Hanks starring in the Coen Brothers' The Lady Killers. And this really is a major disappointment, because at least with Scooby-Doo 2, you kind of figured that they were really going to drop the ball on that one, but this is just inexcusable. You got the Coen Brothers, you got Tom Hanks in a role that is against type and looks like he's having the time of his life with it, but the film is just a really bad movie. This was back when the Coen Brothers were trying to go more mainstream, and it's not every attempt they had at this was very successful. And Intolerable Cruelty was not a great film overall, but at least that one was at least trying. Even something like The Hudsucker Proxy, which I think is a much better movie, is a little bit more mainstream than their usual stuff here. And in this, you have essentially a remake of the 1955 comedy, which revolves around a Southern professor played by Tom Hanks, who puts together a group of thieves to rob a casino. They rent a room in this old woman's house played by Irma P. Hall, but she soon discovers the plot of, and then they try to figure out how to kill her, which is a task that is more difficult than it seems. Irma P. Hall is a great character actress, and the fact that she's getting a lead role in this is really, it's incredible to think about, because she's been a great character actress for so many years. And again, the pieces are there. You got Marlon Wayans, you got J.K. Simmons, George Wallace is in here, Stephen Root, Greg Grunberg, Blake Clark, Aldous Hodge, Jeremy Suarez, Bruce Campbell has a cameo in here. The pieces are so there, and it just falls apart at the seams really quickly. All the fun stuff is in the trailer. The only real positive you can take from this movie is the fact that Tom Hanks probably is the best thing about the movie. And it's not his fault that the movie is bad. It's just a poorly written script in general. And I think for the Coen Brothers, this is the movie that woke them back up and realized, okay, we can't keep making these mainstream movies until we really know what we're doing. And eventually their next movie was not only one of their more successful movies with No Country for Old Men, but it was a movie that went on to become a Best Picture winner at the Academy Awards. So there is a happy ending to this after all of this. But yeah, The Big Lebowski. I'm sorry, Big Lebowski. I did not want to put you in the same category as this movie, because you're a classic movie. The Lady Killers is not. It's a film that is just so badly put together. It's a film that wastes a lot of talent creatively. Tom Hanks' performance deserves a better movie than this, and this is just a bad movie. Just a really, really, really bad movie. And, so with that said, how about some more disappointment for you? Have you had enough yet? Here's Kevin Smith's mainstream attempt at a mainstream movie with Ben Affleck. Can he finally turn the tide after so many bad movies that we've looked at of his? Let's see if we can fix that with Jersey Girl. Again, kind of like with The Lady Killers, the pieces are there. I mean, Ben Affleck has been proven to be a great actor over the years. You got Liv Tyler, who's proven to be a great actress. George Carlin, This is one of his last film performances. Stephen Root, Mike Starr, Jason Biggs. This is something that Kevin Smith was trying to do that was completely different from the movies that made his name with the Viewers universe. In fact, Jay and Silent Bob don't even show up in this movie, although they're in the opening logos, which obviously they're going to be there because they're kind of the mascots of this universe that Kevin Smith put together. For Kevin Smith, it was a big deal for him. It was his first major movie where he was given a huge profit, a huge budget of $35 million, and it barely made that back. And it's not like the movie isn't trying either. You have a story where Ben Affleck plays a widowed man who must take care of his precocious daughter after her mother dies during childbirth. And guess who the mother is played by? Jennifer Lopez. Even though they were already well divorced split up at this point, and they technically didn't get married. I don't think. Did they get married? I don't know. Now I'm kind of I should know this, but okay, they didn't get married back then. They got married in 2002, but in 2022. Excuse me, 2022. But you get the idea here. It was very awkward right from the get-go, and I don't know. Like, this is a movie that I feel is, it's funny because on Time About the Movie's flashback, just recently, we looked at She's Having a Baby. And Kevin Smith actually says that's one of his favorite John Hughes films, and he compares it similarly to Jersey Girl because both of those movies underperformed. And it's very interesting because both movies have a lot of good ideas to them, have a lot of things that should work, some great talent overall, but it's a film that just really doesn't feel like it deserves the full attention that it gets. It doesn't deserve your full attention overall, is what I'm trying to say. And it just feels like a film that really... You can tell Kevin Smith was trying his best with it, and this isn't like Cop Out, which was the other time he was trying to go more mainstream, and it just failed miserably. This was a film that was at least trying to work. It's a film that's at least trying to work even for the mainstream romantic comedy audience that this movie was clearly going for, but it just didn't work out in the end. And I think because Kevin Smith kind of stepped out of his boundary territory, this is actually his first film to receive a PG-13 rating, which is very rare for him in general. I think only Cop Out was the other one with a PG-13 rating, if I'm not mistaken. But I think it was just outside of his norm in general. And give him a lot of credit for at least trying to make it work. But in the end, it just really didn't come together as well. But for Ben Affleck, I'll give him this. I think I said Paycheck was probably his best film during this stretch of bad movies. I'll take that back and say that this film is almost on that. I would probably say that this is probably his overall best film in that little stretch, but that doesn't mean that it's a great film in general. It's kind of like with Cuba Gooding Jr. The Fighting Temptations is a good movie, but not a great film compared to some of the bad movies he was making the year before. But certainly a better comedy that he put together than Surviving Christmas, and trust me, we're gonna get to that one. I keep building it up. It's like you hyping it up to be this big thing, and yeah, this one, Surviving Christmas, was a pretty big deal back then for me personally. But we'll get to that one when we get to Christmas. Oh, I'm sorry, Halloween. Which, yeah, we're gonna have some good times with that one. I can guarantee you that. But yeah, that's Jersey Girl. Just a decent film, but not one you're going to want to watch again anytime soon. For a one-time watch, I thought it was fine, but I've had no real intentions of never watching this ever again. But I digress. 3 disappointments so far, 3 bad movies in general. Can the savior of the weekend be DMX with his movie Never Die Alone? Well, let's find out. Short answer, no. Long answer, well, you have DMX starring in a film noir centering around a hard-boiled stylist kingpin drug dealer called King David, who returns to his hometown seeking redemption but ends up only finding violent death. King David's final moments are spent with Paul, an aspiring journalist who knew him for just a few minutes, yet King David would forever make an impact on Paul's life. Half preacher, half Satan, and all street smarts, King David has recorded the story of his exploits on audio tape, leaving behind an often poetic sermon on villainy and its consequences. The tape reveals the cycle of violence and retribution, which his actions have spawned, have come back to him full circle, and he suspects they might be all along. And this has a good director behind it, Ernie Dickerson, who was Spike Lee's original cinematographer. He's made some movies that we've talked about that have actually been pretty good. Juice, Surviving the Game, Demon Knight, Bulletproof. Just a good director, a decent director overall, but this is one of those movies that was literally trying to cash in on Eminem's success with 8 Mile, and you know, DMX has proven that he can act in some movies before this, but I mean, okay, I'll take it back. DMX, I think, really is the strongest part of the movie because he is the one thing about the movie that carries the load. I think he does play the performance of King David very well here. It's the movie itself that just really is a mess. Like, it's clearly got the stuff to tease the audience, like the bootlegs, like you got the sexy lady taking off her clothes in sexy lingerie, and you know, like I said, it's pretty much what you think it's going to be. It's a movie that really is kind of lazy. It doesn't really have a lot of ideas of what street culture is. It's a hood film that's trying to be something similar to what Spike Lee did with something like with something like his early movies, but it never really goes that route, and it's a shame because, kind of like with some of the movies we talked about on the show, a good performance by DMX is being completely wasted on a film that really needed a better screenwriter in general. But then again, this is a film that feels like they wanted to cash in on the success of 8 Mile because Eminem showed that he could make a hit movie and win an Oscar for it, and they were hoping to do the same thing with this, but sadly, you need a better script in general to make it work, and a good cast here completely wasted. You know, Michael Ealy, David Arquette, Regan Gomez-Preston, Lunel, Drew Sidora, Keisha Sharp, Tony Lister Jr., Henry Gibson has a cameo in here. There's Aisha Tyler. Good people overall here. Just not a great film to carry the load for, and it's a shame because DMX really is trying his best to hold it together, and it's just not enough to carry the load. I think I didn't mention Michael Ealy, but I thought I did, but he's another great performance in here that's kind of completely wasted, but just not a good movie in the end. Just a really, really lackluster film. It felt like they were kind of pushing this out there because they knew there wasn't going to be an audience for it, and the results have spoken for themselves. So yeah, that's Never Die Alone. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We will jump into April in the next episode with 5 movies, including Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy starring Ron Perlman, Dwayne Johnson following up on the success of The Rundown with Walking Tall, the remake, the worst of the bottom of the barrel for Disney's animated movies. You thought Wish was the bottom of the barrel? Wait until we talk about Home on the Range, which was the movie that literally killed Disney animation until they tried to revive it a couple years later, and it took a while, but yeah, this was the film that killed the second golden age of Disney animation. But we'll look at that one. We'll look at Julia Stiles and The Prince and Me, and we'll also look at Stephen Chow's Shaolin Soccer, which came out this weekend in limited release. So we'll take a look at those 5 films all in the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I'm off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.